Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. Don't worry, we are still in the East Dulwich Tavern, but there's actually a wake going on in the room we normally film in. So we're in this sort of Christmassy themed room, the Red Room, here at the East Dulwich Tavern. But thank you very much for having us to the EDT, as usual. I'm joined by Michael McCubbin and Henry Hill. Henry, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
In good spirits. As I've been touting on Twitter, very happy that Villarreal beat Juventus.
Mystic Henry.
Mystic Henry came through, although if Vlahovic had maybe scored in the first half, could have been a difference. But yes, Unai Emery, working his magic once more. Dark Destroyer. No, he's great. It doesn't look like Villarreal, Atletico, Benfica. It is shaping up to be sort of like the classic big boys of European football in the semi-finals. However, it's still good fun to have a little twist in the tail here and there. But how are you, Doogie? We don't ask you enough.
I'm well, thank you. I'm well. Yeah, I've enjoyed the football this week. I've also had to spend a lot of my evenings listing furniture because I'm moving house. So I've been sort of half watching, which has been a bit of a pain. But hopefully, if anyone wants any furniture, by the way, DM me on Twitter or on Instagram if you're based in London. McCubbs, though, have you cried out your Champions League exit on Tuesday night?
Yeah. It was a frustrating game, but it's Latio, isn't it? It's Latio. That second half, it never felt like coming. Bit annoyed about the manner of the first goal, in that the entire forward line just switched off and didn't track back, and instead kind of tried to buy that foul for Elanga that almost certainly wasn't a foul. But yeah, and then watched Villarreal Juve last night, which was Juve Villarreal, which was a pretty dire affair, let's be honest. But yeah, I echo Henry's sentiment. Unai Emery is just a master, isn't he, in European knockout games, and just frustrated that they just frustrated Juve so much after that early flurry. So yeah, fair play to them. I will say though, let's hope that maybe the draw is a bit more kind, and we'll see maybe like Villarreal against Benfica or something. Yeah. That would be great, because to see one of them two in the semi-finals would be a nice change of scene for what's been a fairly kind of a fairly predictable run of Champions League seasons in recent years. But yeah, so yeah, all in all, I've had a pretty good week.
Yeah, absolutely. I would fear at Latio as well. I don't think anyone wants to draw them. They are just very annoying to play against.
Gross.
I mean, that's the kindest word I can use for them. Anyway, let's get into today's show. Today we're going to talk about, El Clásico is on Sunday, so we wanted to do a game or a title sort of leading up to that, and we wanted to talk about next season in La Liga, because let's have it right, Real Madrid will in all likelihood win La Liga this year. They are 10 points clear with 10 games to go. But the work of Xavi has given Barcelona fans renewed hope after a really difficult couple of years. They've risen from 7th to 3rd. They've lost just one of their 15 league games under him. And there is a feeling that Barcelona are beginning to turn around and go in the right direction after years of financial mismanagement and on-pitch performances declining, etc. So today we want to talk about next year in La Liga and whether any signings Barcelona could make could close that gap. Assess our thoughts, basically. McCubbs, let's start with Xavi, though, because I think when he was appointed, we maybe thought, is this the right time for Xavi to take over Barcelona personally for him? Yeah. But, what a start, particularly in the league. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. I think everyone was right to have their doubts. I feel like I was one of the more optimistic people around the appointment, mainly because it kind of felt like Barcelona almost couldn't get any worse, and it was, at least they were kind of trying something different. But yeah, I don't think anyone could have predicted just how quickly he was able to turn it around, especially after that first month where they didn't look particularly great. But yeah, obviously we're filming this before the Galatasaray second leg
quite
as well.
That, yeah.
So we could be having to eat our words here, because going out to Galatasaray in the Europa League would not be great. And obviously they were held to draw at home. So yeah, it's all to play for in that game as we're filming this. But in the league, they've just been so good, haven't they? They're now scoring something like 2.4 goals a game. That's up from like 1.5. Again, like similar for like points per game as well. And it's the manner of the victories as well, which I think is really impressive. Like they've all been won by new signings that were made in January, and they've all gelled really, really quickly into this team. Ferran Torres and Ousmane Dembele were superb on the weekend, actually, as was Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. I think, not even...
a gift from the gods.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm inclined to agree. But I see Piers Morgan's been kind of talking about that on Twitter as well. Actually, I shouldn't have mentioned him. But not only for his kind of in the box movement and finishing ability that we know he has, but he's actually been pretty involved in build up as well. So that's really promising. And I think that's the thing, is that, like, you know, say like last season, you know, this time last year, Barca were playing some really, really nice football. Frankie de Jong was coming into his own. Koeman was getting it quite right with that kind of three at the back system, but it was also Messi, wasn't it? Messi was an amazing form, and like I feel like every time Barca have been on a really good run in recent years, it's always kind of come back to that it's, you know, this is still Messi's team, and without him, they would probably fall apart. And now 6 months on from Messi leaving, suddenly Barca are playing like really, really attractive, but also really effective football again. And I don't think that's something that we could have predicted. And I think that's, you know, partly down to, you know, Pedri's kind of fast development since arriving at the club, and also coming back from injury since Xavi's been there. Gavi, I don't think anyone could have thought like how amazing he's developed, you know, at such a young age. And, you know, you've got kind of Xavi using them to almost as, you know, two number 10s in games. You know, granted, they've not been playing always the best opposition in Spain, but they've been very, very dominant. And what is it, like have they scored 4 in like 4 of the last 6 games or something? Yeah. Like I mean, Real Madrid is going to be a big test, and I don't know whether they'll win it, but yeah, the improvement has been beyond what I could have thought.
Yeah, I think I saw when I was doing a bit of research for this that if they'd kept this points per game rate that they have under Xavi across the entire season, they'd be 1 point behind Real Madrid, which does go to show how solid Real Madrid have been this year as well, that even at Barcelona's best, they are then matching Real Madrid rather than surpassing them. But I agree with you. I think they are playing probably the best football that I've seen Barcelona play for quite a while now. And it's slightly different to what we maybe expected the old Barcelona way. They actually play quite direct, I think, which really suits these sort of fast forwards they brought in. And the interplay is really improving as well. And it's been nice to see someone like Frankie de Jong, who was struggling at the early parts of this season, come into a bit of form as well. But Henry, there are obviously some limitations in the market, obviously with their finances. But in order to close the gap on Real Madrid, it feels like they might need to make a few different signings. And one player that we've talked about consistently that looks like it's going to be signed in the next couple of weeks is Andreas Christensen. There's talk about Nusayr Mazraoui as well. What do you make of these potential moves?
I think they're brilliant. You put out a nice tweet where you outlined the value of the entire squad at the moment. It was something about, 70 million pounds?
Something like 76 million pounds.
Starting 11, and I respect that. I think that is, you know, you have to get smart eventually in this situation, and Barcelona are doing that effectively. I mean, interesting to see if Franck Kessié goes there as well. Do they necessarily need another central midfielder? I'm not too sure. A lot of people the other day having a go at me for suggesting they might sell Frankie de Jong. I said that was something I read. I don't think they should sell him. I think he's brilliant. I've been one of his biggest fans for this whole process. But yeah, I mean, if we look at those signings you're talking about, I do think right back is somewhere where they could certainly improve. It doesn't look like Dest has necessarily paid off. I think he's had opportunities. He's been played out of positions. So yeah, I do think that maybe at right back they could get someone else in there. Is Mazraoui necessarily an upgrade on Dest? I don't think so. I think he's injured.
Really?
Well, I just think his injury record's been difficult as well. He's missed 11 games in 1920, 21 in 21 past season 2. So, I mean, players coming out of the Eredivisie, never quite sure. It's a massive step up as Dest has proven. But sure, if you can get him in for free, I doubt he'll be asking for wages that are going to be breaking the bank, then absolutely. Christensen, I love that deal. I think that is a really, really smart piece of business. Fingers crossed they can get the Araujo new contracts over the line as well, because I'm not convinced by Eric Garcia. PK's only getting older, but I think he's important to have him around. I saw a great interview of him the other day talking about how much of a positive feeling sort of back in that Barca camp. So I think, you know, PK is sort of a real pillar of wisdom in that group. But yeah, if they could get Christensen through, excellent pickup. One top 10% of defenders for passes attempted, pass completion and interceptions. You know, slight concerns about him in a back four, but let's face it, Barca, the possession-heavy sides already in La Liga this season, always averaging over like 62, 63% that I've seen. And I think if you get someone like Christensen in there, who's so composed and calm on the ball, do
you think it matters that he's performed at his best in the back three? Or?
I just don't think he's going to face as much challenges on a week-to-week basis in La Liga than he is in the Premier League. If you can consider top 8, just how competitive it is. Yes, but I also think that Xavi will probably go to a back three at times. I think we've seen him, he likes to deploy that with his wingers, and So the thing about this Barca squad is that this season I think they've used about 36 different players or something like that. They've used a ridiculous number of players, including youth people, Yusuf Demir, etc., gone back to Rapid Vienna. So they are going to have to go through the process where they boil it down, figure out who's sticking around for the long haul. Depay, it's still not 100% sure if he's going to be there next season, even though he started playing football again. Dembele, what's going to happen with him, as you said, has been incredible recently. I've just been writing about him for Scout Report. I think only Trejo and Benzema in the whole of La Liga have got more assists than him this season. His 7 assists. And he's played like 650 minutes of football.
Yeah, it's mad.
Like Oscar Trejo has played over triple that. So he is producing incredible numbers. I think against Osasuna, he touched the ball 93 times, which is 3 touches less than Aubameyang and Ferran Torres combined, and they all started and played 70 minutes together, which just shows everything is going through him at the moment. So it'll be really interesting to see if they stick him around. So yeah, I just think they need to boil down their squad and really make some concise additions in the market. And you know what, I know we're going to go into their financial problems, but in terms of their budget for next season, you never know with this Barca side. I reckon they can. The Torres deal came out of nowhere. I can just see them popping up with a really intriguing transfer, which none of us maybe saw coming. And also, they're going to get some money for some players too. So yeah, it's very exciting. It is actually genuinely very exciting.
Yeah, and if they lose Ousmane Dembele, even though I don't think they should probably, given the form he's shown recently as well, that's a lot of wages taken off the wage books as well. I imagine they'll sell probably 1 star. I don't know whether you count Dest as a star, but he'll probably go. Frankie de Jong, I still think there's a chance that they might cash in on him as well, even though I wouldn't, Henry wouldn't. So yeah, we'll see. I think they'll be able to raise a little bit of money through player sales, but it's interesting because we got this information sent through earlier this week that Barcelona are actually 144 million euros over their spending limit heading into the next window. In contrast, Real Madrid have been set a limit of 739 million euros. That's for wages and transfers. So Real Madrid have an enormous budget going into the next window. That budget will use to retain the players on the salary they've already on, etc. But it does go to show the massive gulf in finances going into the next window. But I still feel like it'd be lovely if Barcelona could get 1 star for them, 1 star signing through the door. And the area that I'd most look at is probably left back, to be honest, as a long-term Jordi Alba replacement. I think he's been very good for the last 18 months, picked up after a really difficult period for him. And signing a long-term replacement for him would really, if they get Mazraoui in at the right-hand side, who's a very good ball player, but if you want a more dynamic presence on the left-hand side, I think that'd be absolutely excellent. A player I thought they could potentially target until I realised how long his contract was Teo Hernandez. He has a contract until 2026,
just signed it, hasn't
I
he?
believe.
Just
yeah. And would you leave AC Milan at the moment for Barcelona? Maybe, but he did come through the Atleti Academy, then joined Real Madrid. Like, it would be a very controversial move, but he strikes me as someone, don't know him personally obviously, I haven't really read anything about his personality, but strikes me as someone that would probably want a little bit of vengeance over the club that sold him for just 20 million euros to AC Milan. Obviously he's been phenomenal there. A player that's much more achievable as a left back, who we've talked about for Barcelona for years now, is Rafael Guerreiro at Dortmund. He's got 1 year remaining on his contract. He's been a phenomenal player for Dortmund in a number of positions for a while now. Excellent technician, great at free kicks, solid enough defensively, really good player. I think this is his 6th year at Dortmund, so he might be looking for a new opportunity at the end of this year. So maybe they could target someone like Guerreiro. But my Cubs, this whole thing about Barcelona's improvement then gets weighed up against what Real Madrid could do this summer. Yeah. And it's pretty scary. Like, they are by far and away the best team in Spain right now, and they're going to potentially add a superstar. At least one.
I'd put in, although I think I've cheerleaded it up for him already on this channel, but David Raum would potentially be a good cheaper option at left back. He's had a great debut season in the Bundesliga and kind of offers a lot of what they need in terms of being able to link up really well with players, and also has a killer delivery. So if they are looking for something a bit cheaper, I reckon Hoffenheim could probably be had. And also I think centre forward Barcelona do need to get something in long term there as well, because Aubameyang's not going to last forever.
But as for Real Madrid, I mean, yeah, Mbappe probably signing in the summer. Obviously, it hasn't been resolved yet. Lots of talk kind of in the last month that he could still sign a new deal with PSG. Even if he does, I think that would probably just be in view to PSG being able to get some sort of money or get a fee out of Real Madrid for him. Obviously, Haaland available this summer as well, potentially.
Barcelona, well, Laporta has effectively ruled out a move for him. It looks like it's going to be between Man City and Madrid, doesn't it? I think Man City are going to be more committed to getting him in this summer. I think Real Madrid would ideally wait for next summer so that they can kind of throw most of their eggs in the Mbappe basket this time round and then add Haaland when Benzema's deal runs out in 2023. But obviously, if suddenly Man City go in for Haaland this summer and Real Madrid decide that it's kind of now or never, then we could potentially see a bidding war between those two, to see who can get Mina Raiola on side. So yeah, it's scary in that sense. But equally, I don't know whether, like, if I was Laporta right now, I wouldn't necessarily be too worried about like getting one up on Real Madrid next season. I think this Barcelona squad, even with just some slight tweaks in the transfer market in the summer, it would be great if they could get someone like, I don't know, Darwin Núñez in or something. But they don't necessarily need like a huge overhaul this summer. At least they don't need to spend a huge amount on players. I think they can still keep up the pace with Real Madrid next season, even with Mbappe, because I still think this Real Madrid side does have issues in terms of, I think we've spoken about it a lot, but in terms of how they move on from this midfield trio, whether they have the legs to keep it going next season. Obviously Camavinga was a great signing and whatnot, but there are still question marks about Real Madrid, namely as well who's going to be managing them next year. Is it definitely going to be Carlo Ancelotti? I'm not so sure.
Really? How so?
Well, I mean, I think the standards are always really high at Madrid, aren't they? And I think, I don't know, I just feel like, links with Pochettino, etc. Like, I wouldn't be that surprised if they changed manager in the summer. So yeah, in that sense, I think Barcelona can still, come a close second next year without having to do too much, or they could even win it. I don't know. I just feel like with Real, they're going to win it this year, but they haven't had to be like one of the best teams in Europe to do so. Benzema and Vinicius have been brilliant, but their production could slow down next year. So yeah, I don't think they should be worried too much about that, because I think ultimately, if Xavi keeps on progressing as he is, and he will make mistakes, and Barcelona will come out of this purple patch of form that they're in, there's no doubt about that. But they are on an upward trajectory. And I think, if Barca are really serious about kind of going back to what made them great in the past, then, this is a 4 or 5 year project, right? And, in 2-3 years, we could see Barcelona, winning La Liga and really going toe to toe with the best in Europe. I don't think it has to be like a rushed thing at this stage, because it's just financially, it's not really possible, is it?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. It would be a complete added bonus if they were in a big title race next season, even though at the moment their points per game is as good as Real Madrid. So I just think if Madrid do go get Rudiger to shore up that defence, links with Tchouaméni at the moment, another young midfielder, which would be a really smart signing considering Modric is going to be extended for another year, Kroos, Casemiro, maybe Casemiro will go to PSG if Zidane goes there, that's the kind of talk as well. But they are slowly evolving that midfield, but they're still the most complete side in La Liga at the moment in terms of at the very, very top level. So yeah, I completely agree with you. This isn't a process that needs to be pushed through. People shouldn't be jumping and getting excited and going, Barcelona need to be winning La Liga. No, they don't. They just need to be stable with like a clear plan and a vision at the moment. If they can get a Copa del Rey, if they can have a deep run in Europe, all added bonuses at the moment. But yeah, you're so right. I just think it's about rediscovering that identity next season and not worrying too much about Real Madrid, but seeing if they can start to formulate a plan to overhaul the power balance once more. And that can take as long as it needs to sometimes. So yeah, I agree with you. I think Real Madrid are still pretty much the favourites next season, especially Mbappe, etc., the other signings they might make.
Absolutely. There we have it, guys. I think we're all kind of in agreement. Barcelona should enjoy the journey for now. Forget about the title race right now. Trust the process, as Mikel Arteta loves to say. Or actually, he hasn't said it for ages anyway. He used to like to say it. Guys, what are your thoughts? Can Barcelona challenge Real Madrid next year? Which signings would you make if you were the Barcelona board to close that gap as well? And let's move on to our big match predictions. Right, guys, time for big match predictions. Going into last week, I was on 31, Henry was on 29, and Cubs was on 19. It wasn't actually that eventful in terms of our predictions, guys, because Hoffenheim Bayern ended up in a draw. For the second time in, I think, consecutive weeks, we backed Bayern for a win. It ended up in a draw, so none of us got points there. Lyon versus Rennes. The Cubs backed Lyon. I went for a draw. Henry went for a 2-1 Rennes win, but it ended up being 4-2, so 1 point to Henry. Torino versus Inter Milan, similar to the Bayern game, ended up in a very disappointing draw. And Inter actually nearly lost that until Alexis Sanchez's late goals, and we all backed Inter. So the scores going into this week are myself on 31, Henry's now on 30, and McCubbs is on 19, so just a 1 point change. But guys, secret, I didn't want to let you know last week, the games we were predicting last week were kind of dull. Get a load of this though. For the first one, Roma versus Lazio. Huge.
Here we go.
Sunday, 5 p.m, 7th versus 5th, 1 point between them as it stands. McCubbs, both of these sides not doing too badly at the moment. It's kind of been Atalanta that have had a bit of a sticky patch.
Yeah, for sure. They're both very much in the race for 5th place, aren't they? Atalanta have really dropped off, have let Juve into 4th spot. Roma beat them a few weeks ago, and they've been on a really good run in general, Roma. I think, he's had his kind of sticky moments, and, he'll always have, his explosive kind of interviews and throwing players under the bus and whatnot. But it seems like Mourinho's generally had a pretty good first year at Roma. Best season I can remember really of him since potentially his first season at Man United. But I mean, since 2016 really, 2016, 2017, that he's really impressed. Like Roma look really good. Like their attacking numbers are really good. I think they're second for shots in the league. I think they're third for expected goals. Third for shots against. Sorry. And generally just look like a good team. Obviously, Tammy Abraham was one of the signings of the summer, wasn't he? Mm-hmm. He's had a brilliant first year in Italy. They're unbeaten in their last 8. Their last losses came against Milan and Juve, who obviously have both been in pretty good form since the turn of the year. I think everything's looking quite good for Roma at the moment. There's still obviously work to be done. There's still a side that are in some ways in transition, I really fancy them for this tie. Actually, I think they have overall been. I think they just have more quality in more areas than Lazio do. Having said that, Immobile is great, isn't he? But I think I just fancy them for this game. I think they've been more impressive this season overall.
Okay, what's your score prediction?
I'm going to say 2-1 to Roma.
Nice. Okay. Henry, you said you caught a bit of Lazio versus Porto in the Europa League.
I did. I watched it with Bulgarian commentary the other day, which was good fun. And they were good. I think they had a couple of goals disallowed in the first half, breaking through. The problem is, I think if you can silence Immobile, then they're slightly stunted as a side. And I don't think they've necessarily kicked on this season under Sarri as perhaps they've wanted to. And there have been opportunities. As we've said, Atalanta struggled in periods. Juventus, certainly before the new year, was struggling. Roma, form was a bit iffy. They either seem to win or lose. There's not many draws this season for Roma. So there has been a door open for Lazio to push on, but maybe they've been a team slightly in transition recently. Maybe they need another window just to kind of sort themselves out. But yeah, I mean, if we look at how they've been playing recently, 1 defeat in their last 8 games, that's really good. 2 in their last 12, that's 7 wins in that time. They've risen from 8th on New Year's Day to 5th, so they've turned it around. But they have struggled in the big games, and this is where my slight concern might be. They lost to Milan, Juventus, they've lost twice to Napoli, Sassuolo and Inter too. So, but they're confident, they are exciting, they've got that kind of Sarriness that I think a lot of us kind of appreciate. But I'm with you on this one. I just think Roma, his first big City derby at home for Mourinho. I think he lives
just
for
back
this.
from his ban.
Back from his ban. I watched his video, his Football Heritage video. It was up on Sky Sports. It's just so good.
12 minutes. That response was apparently.
Yeah, it's just when he's just outlining. I love the guy, and I don't care. I think he's a class act at Roma as well. So yeah.
Is Mourinho going to score all the goals in this?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm loving the Zaniolo Abraham partnership as well. That's really fun. So you went 2-1. I'm going to go for 3-1. I'm going to go for 3-1. Yeah.
Okay.
Comprehensive.
Well, the only factor that I think is worth mentioning is that Roma played tonight in the Europa League. No, sorry, the Europa Conference League against Vitesse. And it was a bit of a dull first leg, I believe. They won 1-0, I think. Sorry?
Oliveira scored and got sent off.
Oliveira scored, exactly. Vitesse are actually quite a good team. They've took Rennes quite far in their group stage as well. I think they beat Spurs as well. They are managed by Thomas Lech, who I was writing about this week for 10 Next Superstar managers. Superstar is probably a bit far with him. He's done a pretty good job with Vitesse so far. So one to watch. So Lazio might come in a bit fresher. And for that reason, I'm going for a draw.
Oh, brilliant.
A very ill-tempered draw. I'm already getting my Italian hand ready. I'm going to go 1-1. Bit dull, but yeah, that's what I'm thinking, guys. So complain all you want. Right, second game. We're going into Marseille versus Nice, South Coast derby. Another huge one. Sunday, 7:45 p.m. Second versus third. They are separated at the moment by goals scored. Their goal difference is exactly the same, and obviously their points are exactly the same as well. Henry, what are we making about this one? Big game on the South Coast.
Yeah, absolutely. My concern for Marseille is that they just can't seem to get it together. They can't capitalise on opportunities. Getting Champions League football is a big deal for them this season. That third spot, it's all up for grabs this term. I mean, if we look at their previous form, just one win in the last 4 games, losing to Clermont and Monaco and drawing with Troyes in that time. Clermont and Troyes were the 2 promoted teams from last season from Liga. Interestingly, Clermont are 16th. And I think 4 of their 7 wins this season are against the top 6. So it kind of shows you it's just all over the shot in terms of what's happening in Liga at times. But yeah, and Dimitri Payet is going to be missing for this game, and that is going to be a massive deal. He is playing so well at the moment. I think his goals and assists, it's like he's on 0.37 assists, expected assists per 90 at the moment, something like that. He's really pairing. I was reading like 1 in 4. Career-wise, 1 assist every 4 games at the moment. He some of the best numbers that he's produced in years, and it looks like he could genuinely make the French squad on his current form. He said he wants to do that recently, and I don't see why Deschamps shouldn't start looking more inward at Liga to try and fix, certainly for depth.
Remember, he was great at Euro 2016.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. Scored that awesome goal against Romania in the opening round. So yeah, but I just think Nice are just good at the moment. They've been really solid in their big games, beating PSG in the Coupe de France, etc. They're flying at the moment. So I'm backing Nice. I'm backing Nice to go and win this. I'm going to say 2-1 to Nice, a big away victory. I just think this is their moment this season. So yeah, Gautier, a hero of all. So,
yeah, he absolutely is. The beady-eyed amongst you would have noticed that we might have got a bit darker. Basically, one of our lights has run out of battery. Didn't charge it enough beforehand. It's been a long shoot. Sorry about that, but hopefully you can still make us out in the darkness. Anyway, McCubs, good point on Galtier. Nice lead in there.
Yes.
Very solid team, Nice, defensively.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of what we expected, isn't it? I feel like with a game like this, it's very. I'm going to just be very simple about it. It is just one team that is stereotypically Sampaoli, very really exciting going forward, but are vulnerable. On the break, Nice, have been fairly classic Gautier in terms of, they've been fairly reliant on Guiri for goals and assists up top, but they have a very solid foundation. They obviously signed really well last summer. Their defence has been superb.
Big Dante.
Exactly. He's just ageless, isn't he? 7 wins in their last 11, only 2 defeats in that time as well. They've got the best defensive record in the division, 5th best in Europe. It's just everything that we kind of came to know from Gautier from his time at Saint Etienne and Lille. He's been able to carry on at Nice, and I think for that reason they are the more favourite to secure that second spot. This is a huge game in that race for Champions League football, isn't it? Because Rennes and Strasbourg are both breathing down.
And Nantes.
And Nantes as well.
Amazing season from them.
And I think they're pretty much the form team in the division, aren't they?
Julien Stéphan as well as their manager.
Yeah.
It's very impressive.
There's a number of teams, chasing them down, and I think that I kind of agree with Henry. Marseille are in a little bit of danger of dropping out in their current form. I'm going to go for 2-0 Nice.
2-0 Nice. What did you say? 2-1 Nice.
2-1 Nice.
We're going very similar this week, aren't we?
Interesting. I mean, the form would suggest that Marseille would probably go in as favourites, at least in terms of this head-to-head. They've won 7 of their last 9 meetings, but Nice have been unbeaten in that last 2. So you went 2-0 and you went 2-1.
I went 2-0. You went 2-1. Yeah.
Why don't I be different? I'll back Marseille.
Yeah.
Why not? I'll go 2-1 Marseille. Let's have it. Go on, Sampaoli. Final game doesn't really need any build-up. We've been talking about it already in the first half. It's the El Clásico clash on Sunday night, 8 p.m. First versus third. There are 15 points between them. We've talked about these teams to death already, guys, so let's keep it extra fast. Henry, what are you thinking score-wise?
My only concern is that Madrid might put more of they might rest some players. I just feel as if, I was reading this week that because the gap's so big between them, first, second and thirds, Benzema's played a lot of football recently, etc. I think they may be, it doesn't mean as much for Real Madrid as it does for Barcelona, this Clásico match, especially with midweek football too. That said, yeah, I think it's going to be a draw. I think it's going to be a bit of a boring. I don't think it's going to be that great a game. I think it's going to be. I'm going to go for. No. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw on this one, just because I think. Yeah, that's it. 1-1.
You're going 1-1. Okay, and Cubs. Are you going to add a little bit more drama?
I was going to suggest a draw, but my thoughts on it are fairly similar to Henry's. I think El Clásicos in general can be, especially when they're built up like this, can end up disappointing. But I think I'll go for something different because we can't have three of the same results. I'm going to go for something. There's something in me that thinks Real Madrid could burst Barca's bubble.
Yes.
In the game like this. But then equally, I think Barca will be really tough on Real's defence. I think over the course of those two legs with PSG were the better team, and they caused Real Madrid more problems. I think it was just that they had that 15 minutes of madness where they suddenly completely switched off. And this Barcelona side, I don't think will do that, and I think Real Madrid will be under an awful lot of pressure from what can turn into like a front five for Barca. My only concern would be kind of Busquets. Can he deal with Real on the break? It will be tough. I think there's going to be goals in this. I've gone through every single possibility here. I think it's going to be 2-1 to Barcelona.
2-1 to Barca.
Yeah.
Massive.
Wow.
That would be their first victory in El Clásico in 6 attempts.
It would be huge for Xavi.
Yeah, they lost 5 in a row.
His first Clásico.
It would be absolutely
Actually, it's not his first Clásico. His first La Liga Clásico.
First La Liga Clásico. I'm going to go 2-1 to Madrid. I think Fede Valverde is going to have a big game. Loves El Clásico, that guy.
He does.
And shown some impressive form recently. So yeah, guys, get your predictions for El Clásico, Rennes versus Marseille. And what was the first one? Roma versus Lazio in the comments down below. I'm afraid we're not going to do a quick fire question this week because we need to get out of the East Dulwich Tavern because they've got a wait going on in this room, as we said at the start of the show. But thank you so much for them for hosting us once again. It's a wonderful pub. If you live in London, do go down to East Dulwich and check out the East Dulwich Tavern. McCubbs, what should they go and watch now if they've enjoyed this?
They should go and watch our latest EFD Explained on Juventus, written by Henry.
Our very own
great video.
H-Hill.
Go and check that out. All about why Juve have the kind of dominance over the kind of Serie A marketplace as they do. Go and check out the Football Pyramid from last week. It was myself versus Christopher Hamill.
Nice. Anything from you, Henry?
Well, I think the next EFD Explained is on Liga. Why it's no longer a farmers' league. Well, that was my takeaway.
Never was.
Yeah, I mean, it's a stupid phrase. I love it. Everyone booing Messi. Everyone in the comments was like, "Oh, it's a farmers' league." So yeah, it was quite an interesting look at how just competitive Liga is and kind of debunking a few myths about quality and whatnot. So yeah, go give that some support.
Nice. And also go check out the podcast this week. It was me and Zach Jalab talking through the Chelsea ownership situation with Chelsea journalist Nizar Kinsella. Well worth a watch, actually. He was really interesting and Zach kept his emotions in check. So it was great to watch. Thank you very much for watching, guys. We'll catch you next week. Goodbye.